What's on Giglio's card sports? What's on Giglio's card spreads? What's on Giglio's card and parlays?
All right, I can't decide if I want to do this every week with golf gambling, but I can't quit, especially because of the Wyndham Championship. I'm Joe Giglio, joined this week by Josh Goodson. Josh, proud member of the G4 Garner Golf Gambling Group.
Yeah.
Josh, proud NC State fan who graduated from North Carolina.
Yeah. Me and Bobby Purcell.
And Josh, my friend.
It's weird doing this at 11:30 a.m. and not on the cell phone at 6:30 a.m. like we normally do.
Sure.
There's not many humans. A lot of people wake up early, but I don't think a lot of people want to bother other folks.
Yeah.
Early in the morning, but
not the case for us.
We don't seem to have that issue, and I appreciate that.
Yes. So I've been trying to educate people. Okay, let's totally be clear. I started a gambling podcast because I like to gamble, number one. And number two, there's going to be money in advertising in gambling. Sure. Right. So let's knock those two things out.
Yep.
I also think other people like to gamble. So it's not like I'm out here, talking about my stamp collection or something like that. So that's number one. But I also do want to educate people. And I think I've tried with golf gambling in particular, why I enjoy golf gambling as much as I do, because it just so happened to work out the first week that I hit an Akshay Bhatia ticket to win the Barracuda, which, as I've tried to explain to people, you can win $3,000 without betting $3,000, without losing $3,000. Right. So we had the great example in week one. I had a couple of top 10s from the British. I had Akshay from the Barracuda, and my first weekend was 30 plus 3,729, 3,729.
Probably not a lot of risk for that either.
And it was a $600 risk.
Right.
Okay. So now last week we have the opposite of that, because on this transparency journey here, I'm not just going to tell you every time I win. The 3M Open was a disaster. Okay. Did not hit top 10, didn't hit top 20, obviously didn't have the winner.
Right.
And none of my first round scratchers came even close. So last week end up risking 500, losing 500, as you can see in the chart here that I'll display for everyone on the YouTubes. So after 2 weeks of golf gambling, though, 32-29 plus 32-29,
still not bad.
Even with a week where I did not win a single bet on the 3M Open. I don't think you were following Ludwig Aberg on day 3 after he shot a 64 on day 2 and put himself only 4 shots back. He had a 9 on 18. A 9.
That happens
on the
to people
PGA
that's
Tour.
Like me and you. We'll do that every now and again.
Correct.
Not an actual professional.
9.
Exactly.
So that not only sunk any chance of him winning that tournament, it also sunk any chance of me winning the G4 for the week. Shout out to our friend Wells for picking that one up. But that's how golf gambling works. Some weeks you're going to have it, and and it is there is a dart process to this.
Especially like last week in tournaments like post major, this weird time of year. You got to remember that the elite guys, you basically starting in March, you had a Players, then the Masters, and then the PGA, then the US Open, then the British Open. The tournaments right now it's not horses for courses,
right?
It's a bunch of, I listen to other golf podcasts. They call this is like the mule. These are the mule tournaments. It's a lot of throwing darts here and there, but as we'll get into, and I'm sure you get into, there's things you can still track and still follow and feel good about and make educated picks and such. But these tournaments are difficult. I don't know what to really compare them to. Maybe it's like
well, they're difficult because anybody can win them.
Correct.
As we just saw last week.
Putting
Hodges.
It essentially turns into putting contests and who can make the most birdies in a week. And all these guys are really good, and it's really hard to find out. It's hard to handicap that weekly. Who's gonna have the hot putter this week? Is what it amounts to.
Yeah. So for me, I like betting on golf because I love the odds of golf.
Yes.
I also feel like during the pandemic, you and I talked a lot about how the best players were winning these tournaments.
Yes.
And the ones who struggled, Brooks Koepka, Rory McIlroy, were the ones who wanted fans. And then voila, look what happened when fans came back, and Brooks had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and some injury issues.
For sure.
I think you've seen him come back with a vengeance.
Yes.
And Rory, while has not been able to win a major, has still consistently been in the top 10, also consistently picked up other PGA Tour wins. So there's different ways to look at all of these different courses and different tournaments. The OG is going to be out there Wednesday, including intern Jackson Giglio, who got credentialed. So I'm excited about that. He's going to handle a lot of our social media stuff. We're going to go back out on Friday so Wednesday is just the Pro-Am.
Sure.
We'll do the show from
Margaritaville.
Margaritaville.
Roy Williams playing in the Pro-Am.
Yeah. A lot of other things going on there too. So I'm excited about that. But I am genuinely excited about Friday because Justin Thomas is actually Jackson's favorite golfer.
Nice.
So we'll get a chance to get out there, see him play a few holes, spend the day out there. So looking forward to that. I also love this tournament because I love it when they play at Ross courses. And I delude myself into thinking that I know how to pick winners on a Ross course.
Sure.
Right. So Sedgefield's going to play at a par 70 this week. If you've ever played down there, you know, for normal mortal people like us, the 18th hole is a par 5.
Right.
For the pros, they turn it into a par 4. So it's par 70. It is your classic Donald Ross course. The greens, while have been redone, have the protection is the humps.
Right.
But there's other than 18 where there is that creek, there's not a lot of trickeration to this course. There's not a lot of water. Right. If there's any water, it's on that creek on 18. It's just a pure, here's a dog leg left. Here's a dog leg right.
Can you hit a draw? Can you hit a fade?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can you stay out of these bunkers? Yeah. Can you carry the right distance and hold the greens and hit them to the right parts of the greens?
Right.
For you and I, that is difficult. For the PGA Tour pros, they tear this place to shreds.
Especially this time of year.
To shreds in that heat.
They golfers like fast greens. I would assume it hasn't rained much in the last, at least here in Raleigh, it hasn't rained much in the last week or two. I imagine the greens will be fiery. This is also a tournament.
We played there recently.
Yeah, you played last week, right?
It's in immaculate condition.
How were the greens?
The greens were good.
Yeah.
You could tell that they were still doing a little bit of dressing, getting them ready.
Sure.
So they weren't, this is the time that you kind of screw around a little bit, make sure that it's ready. So they weren't like lightning. There were a couple of holes that were like, hey, you're on the wrong side of this thing, Giglio. There were a couple of Donald Ross 3 putts that I had, but the course itself is immaculate.
And as you educate people, I think it's important to also talk about certain courses want to be known for certain styles of golf, or even if not styles, scoring.
Yeah.
Just so like the normal human can be like, 20 under par, like birdie, we're going to go to this course and we're going to watch on TV and there's going to be a birdie fest. And there's other courses that we all know that Jack's tournament, the Memorial, is going to be a hard test and it's going to be a tough, and like the players know that too. So as you handicap golf, I think knowing like what type of course you're going to and what type of tournament and what they go look at the most recent years, go look at the winning scores. They're usually roughly around the same. So,
and when you see Kevin Kisner and Siwoo Kim and some of these guys who are not bombers winning, there's a reason.
Correct. 100%.
And I do think there is also some familiarity, for me, in years
when we
past,
get to the picks, you're going to see a lot of, this is probably a home game. This is probably a home game. And that stuff matters.
For me, in years past, this has been a Webb Simpson tournament. This has been a Harold Varner tournament.
Yes.
And I've also, even though Harbortown is not a Ross course, I consider them to be very similar. So I like to look at the RBC Heritage and
driving accuracy, who can, putts.
There's in my opinion, and now I say this, Josh, knowing that last week I went on and on and on about TPC courses. And,
par 72.
And it's going to be this, and Lee Hodges wins, right? Like, so I can't, sit here and tell you with any certainty, of course. But I do think that is the beauty of golf gambling is you can look at Rocket Mortgage is a Ross course. Now it's a par 72, so it's a little bit different. But I also do look at other par 70 events, which is going to get me to my winner. So here's what I want to do. Like I've been doing this with Bennett Johnson, and with Bennett, we picked the winner, we picked top 10, we picked top 20, and we picked 3 first round leaders.
Okay.
Without betraying
just three first round leaders,
without betraying any of your potential law-breaking activities, which all you had to do is drive to Virginia. Let's just say you do that.
Sure.
You have a different way of going about picking first round leaders.
Yeah.
And you also have those, like, you win more than you lose with your first round leaders.
Well, yes, but also the odds payouts,
and that's
is the biggest key of it. I might lose 5 in a row, but the sixth one before that, I may have hit a 75-1 ticket
and
that pays for maybe the next 15 or 20 or whatever the number might be, depending on it.
You have this super annoying habit in the golf text thread. Anytime you're in, and here's what's but doubly annoying about it. Not that I don't want you to have success. You dump the Gatorade before the round is over. You like to send this eyeball emoji and then folks ... when your guy still has like 3 holes left, and when John Rahm is like still on the course.
Yeah.
And it still comes home for you.
More often than not, it does. Yeah.
Annoying thing.
I'm not worried about like don't talk
jinx.
about the perfect game type stuff, like whatever.
So anytime you see the eyeballs and the folks, it's like, I forgot who it was a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, how do you have?
Oh God, I can't even
because
remember.
I had Denny McCarthy.
Sure.
It was in Hartford. Or you had Denny McCarthy. I had Keegan Bradley.
Correct.
And Keegan Bradley was balling.
We both had
Keegan Bradley because he plays well there. He was balling, and I'm like, oh, at first I'm like, oh, okay, we're feeling good. Then all of a sudden, here comes Denny Mac, and I get another folks, and I'm like, oh,
no,
damn you that you got both of them. So without any further ado, let's get into who you have first round leaders and kind of go through how you like to go through and pick these guys, because you like the longer odds.
This. So there is a piece of this might be bad, and I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily take this as gambling advice, but I kind of like to have the big payouts. There's nothing gets my juices going about
betting flow all the time.
Betting $100 to win $100. Right. You know, like I'm not in it for that and such, but I like to think I have a system.
Okay.
I kind of look between I don't usually go any lower than the 40-1.
Okay.
That's usually the lowest I go to. And just for the record, when people are hearing 40-1 on a normal betting sheet, the guy who's 40-1 is probably the 20th best golfer that week.
Okay.
So it's not like a 40-1 guy is someone you've never heard of,
right? For
the most part. And then from there, that's kind of where I start. I look at how guys have been playing. I think recent form in this scenario of a first round leader is a huge deal. Did the guy just have a good weekend at the previous tournament, but didn't win? Right? Does he feel good about himself? Yeah. Did he play well?
Do you look at the start times? Because you know how I feel about that.
Well, I do look at the start times, but I don't care as much about that unless I get a whiff of there's weather, and that the waves could be different. The guys playing in the morning could be playing on fast conditions, and a little rain comes in and it softens it up and it becomes a dart fest and such. I do look at that, but I look at the 40-1 number.
All right, so I'm on the screen right now.
Yeah,
these guys are too high. So give me a name and I'll fish them out for you.
Well, Russell Henley.
Russell Henley is your first. Okay, so 40-1.
40-1. He was the first round leader at the Wyndham 2 years ago. Okay. I look at what guys have done at the previous tournaments. I think that matters. I look
also a ball striker, a par 70 guy, plays well in Hawaii, and some of those other shorter courses.
Correct. Second guy. This is the stat I was telling you about.
Okay.
387 is the leading amount of birdies made by a player on the PGA Tour this year.
Is it Akshay?
One of your guys, and it's kind of I'm jokingly saying one of your guys. Steven Yeager leads the PGA Tour in birdies made this year. Steven Yeager also is kind of in one of my rules. He hasn't won yet this year, correct?
No. He's played well here, too.
I don't like to take guys who have won tournaments, because generally in this part of the board, guys who win a tournament, they might be like, I'll cash my $1.5 million check. I'm on cruise control. I'm not going to maybe
because
not
the FedEx Cup playoffs start next week.
FedEx Cup playoffs start next week. So I like a guy that's going to make a lot of birdies. Usually first round leaders on courses like this, where we talked about it's a birdie fest, you might want to look at the guys who make the most birdies. So in doing all this, my system, recent form, makes birdies. Is there any history of playing there? Steven Yeager is going to be one of my other first round leader picks. I think he was 55 to 1 or 60 to 1.
Jaeger's 55.
55 to 1.
Yep. Now, do you put the same amount on all of your 10
I usually
picks?
do $25.
25. So
Yeah.
a quarter, basically.
And then I have 2 more.
Yeah. But no, give them all.
Give them all. I'm giving them all. Okay.
This is what you do.
Okay.
You take
so this
like
week
10
I've
or
got
12?
this week I think I've got 14.
Okay.
And I've got a little. I'll rapid fire through these.
Yeah.
Henley 40 to 1. We talked about why. Sung Jae 40 to 1. He was the
Really?
first round leader last year.
Okay.
Sung Jae.
Missed the
Ludwig,
cut at 3M.
your guy, Ludwig,
Aberg.
50 to 1. He's been on the scene only like 5 or 6 tournaments, but makes a lot of birdies, can go low. We've seen that. The Postman.
JT he's balling right now.
JT Poston, 50 to 1. Did not win recently, but played well last week. And did you see what he said?
Yeah. Going forward on 18. He was trying to win the tournament.
Trying to win. I don't care about second.
Yeah.
I like a guy that's going to go. He's in the mode of, I got to go make birdies to win tournaments. I like guys like that. Shane Lowry, I did put in there. He's one of my guys. He's 50 to 1. He also needs to play well this week to make the FedEx Cup playoffs. Jaeger, we talked about. Brendan Todd, been playing
There's a name
well.
that's going to come up.
Why? Course, I'm going to say the word course knowledge. He's a North Carolina guy. I imagine if you're a North Carolina guy and you're a professional golfer, you've played at Sedgefield a good bit. I'm just going to guess that.
Yep.
Bo Hostler. 70 to 1. The only reason I'm taking him, he shot 63 on Sunday at the 3M Open. He had the best score, low round of the day. A guy that's feeling well, just came off of making a lot of birdies. You'll find in this golf gambling stuff, which I'm sure you educate people on, form matters. How you're playing comes in matters whenever you're trying to pick stuff like this. Rarely does a Lee Hodges type thing I'm not saying rarely, but more often than not, you're getting the way that we look at it, and form actually is a big deal. 5 more. Akshay, 70 to 1, makes a lot of birdies, needs to play well. He's kind of getting screwed by the PGA's stuff. He's a first round leader. I don't love this one, and it's 100% a course knowledge thing. Webb, he's 80 to 1. He's not playing well. It kind of goes against my form, but it's like I would be really mad if Webb comes out and shoots 7 or 8 under and is the first round leader, when it's like, oh, you didn't take the guy that's won here like 3 times and played well and has essentially played here a ton.
That's got to be injuries.
Yeah, he hasn't been right this
hasn't
year.
been healthy.
3
He's
more.
always fought his putter too. I mean, it's always been a thing.
And it's been weird since he lost his caddy.
I think willingly.
Yeah,
not like in a bad way, but I think he saw another deke in Cameron Young and said,
either that, or I'm sure Webb was like, I'm a little injured. Go support your, go make some money, support your family, and go get a young guy. 3 more real quick. Chesson Hadley, 80 to 1. North Carolina guy, been playing well. 2 more. Brant Snedeker showed some life last week. He's actually plus 12,000 first round leader.
That's nuts.
And he's played well at the Wyndham before. Yeah. Played well at the Wyndham, played well last week, showed some signs of life. Last one, he played well here last year, round 1. He's actually been a first round leader and won for me this year. I kind of have a soft spot for guys that have helped me out.
The Smotherman?
We're getting smothered and covered with Austin Smotherman. He's plus 17,000. So that's crazy. It. There's 14 guys, 25 apiece. If Henley hits, I'm going to win 1,000 because he's 40 to 1. Right. And then you do the math, like I'll probably lose. I'll net $700.
Yeah. The thing to remember about first round leader bets are it's cut by the number of people who are tied for the lead. So it's pretty rare. Last week, Lee Hodges first place by himself.
Correct.
It's pretty rare that actually
especially
happens.
In these like birdie fest type tournaments. It ends up being 7 or not 7, but like 7 under, and then 3 guys being 7 under. I was going to say
par 70, 63 would be my guess for the first round leader. For
last year, it was 61 was John Huh, not Justin Suh, John Huh. And then the year before, it was Russell Henley at 62.
Okay. So
there's a chance. But that's what I usually do with first round leaders. I like to think everybody's like, revisionist history, but I tend to hit them pretty often enough. I'll put it like that, to where it, like you said, it bankrolls the rest of stuff in this fictional world of placing wagers. And
that's $350.
Correct.
So if most people like us bet $100 a game, or straight bets are $100. you're getting 14 looks at something for $350. I mean,
and with the payouts of if Bo Hostler comes home,
Right.
that's a $1,700 hit.
I feel like that's the most important thing as someone who can look at me and say, only bet what you can lose.
Yeah.
So like you could lose $350 and walk away next week and be like, all right, I can do this.
And I think we watch enough golf. Rarely does Scotty Scheffler have the first round lead.
Right.
Rarely does Rory, so I don't see a lot of value in those guys.
Right.
That's why.
And even though their first round odds are better than their tournament odds, they're still not great.
And that's why I kind of live in this land of like 40-1 and a little bit higher. Because I think a lot of these guys in this area hit a lot because they're the guys that like, they're not going to win the tournament.
Yeah.
They're not going to win the tournament usually. And they're birdie fest, but like anybody, they're flawed. And over 4 days, they usually don't sustain it. So you get them on their first day with the most rest and, take your chances with that.
All right, let's pay a few bills here. Let's take an ad break. We come back. I've got top 20 picks. You got a top 20 pick?
I have a.
All right, we come back. We'll do top 20, top 10. I'm not going to make any first round leader bets because seriously, you do this way better than I do. And
you'll get mad because we'll take the same person and you say
if I counterfeits. Yes. No, it's not you. It's me.
Yeah.
I'm the one who counterfeits your pick. So I'm not going to take any first round leader bets this week. Plus, I'm just not very good at them. Like your system works, and I'm not disciplined enough to take your system, and that's kind of the difference between you and me. Because I feel something strong, and then my guy will finish second. And I always say, like, you're much better at spraying and kind of covering the angles, whereas I'm like, no, Victor Hovland's going to win this week, and then of course, like you would have picked Brian Harman. You would have bet on Brian Harman.
Sure.
Even though I had a piece of Brian Harman, I didn't have the right piece of Brian Harman. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Like, that's the difference between me and you. So let's just pay some quick bills here. We come back. We'll get into our picks for the Wyndham Championship right here on Picks and Pizza. All right. Big thanks to our friends at Breeze Through, Adam Stevenson. Check out this tumbler. Breeze Through lifetime refills. $20. You're going to win them here on the OG next in 2 weeks. Look at that sweet, sweet logo. Breeze Through has so much more than just gas. Well, while that is helpful, they have more than gas. 17 locations throughout North Carolina. You're never too far away from your Breeze Through for your next commute, road trip, tailgate, adventure. Pool Road over by Walnut Creek. Of course, the one on Edwards Mill right across from the arena. Cary, Apex, Smithfield, Garner, Pittsboro, Hillsboro, Blowing Rock, Lenore. You name it, Breeze Through is there. They've got you covered no matter where your summer plans take you. This is the best time to get yourself ready for the school year. And if you want to move, now's the time to find a house. Barry Woodard and his crew at Hometown Realty, they can help you. They got the best deals out there. He's got the best crew out there. More than 250 agents over 6 locations. They're in Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Selma, Atlantic Beach. You name it, whether you're doing residential, commercial, or rental. Hometown Realty, myhtr.com. Barry and his crew, they've got you covered. Give them a call, 919-550-7355. And of course, once you buy that house, you're going to need to close and you're going to need a lawyer. You're going to need some legal help. Josh Whitaker, Joe Hamer. Whitaker and Hamer, they got more than 20 years experience. They can help you close on that house. Or maybe you're starting a business. Maybe you're selling a business. Anything that's family law related. Josh and Joe, they've got you covered. Check them out in Raleigh, Clayton, Fuquay, Morehead City. And of course, all of the G's, Goldsboro, Gastonia, and Garner. They have the world's greatest URL, wh.lawyer. Give them a shout at 919-772-7000. Look at that magic. It's unbelievable.
We're back.
How did I do that? All right, so I'm going to go top 20.
Can I say one more thing about this particular tournament, which is interesting?
Yeah.
It is the last tournament before the playoffs start. FedEx Cup playoffs start next week. They changed the rules this year. It used to be, I think, top 125 make it to next week.
Correct.
This year, it's only top 70. That's a big deal.
Yes.
It's a huge deal. Getting into the playoffs, way more money, possibilities, way more access to designated events, I think, next year, and so on and so on.
Especially with some of these guys who may have done better this year without the live golfers. Who knows the status of those golfers moving forward?
Right.
A Chris Kirk, a Kirk Kitayama, guys like that. You know, like they and Danny McCarthy obviously benefited from playing in events without all of the best players in the world.
Right.
I don't think there's any way around acknowledging that.
So I would, if you're watching this, listening to this, I think there's some value in doing a little bit of homework. And usually the PGA Tour will send out like a spreadsheet, literally a spreadsheet on probably today or tomorrow for this particular event and say, here's everybody playing. Here is what they have to do to make the top 70. And they'll give you I found some of them. It's like they'll give you the minimum finish they have to do. And then also what's the guarantee thing. Like Akshay minimum has to finish third, but if he finishes second, he's automatically in. And it's usually not that tight. There's some bigger spreads. So go find that if you're trying to gamble this week, because I think there's some value in knowing that. It's kind of like taking the teams at the end of college football,
right,
with 5 wins going into the last week. I feel like if you blindly took every 5-win team going into their season win finale, who can become bowl eligible the next week, just blindly taking them, there's motivation involved. So this week's a little bit different because there is some motivation and there's some guys that you may have never heard of that you're like, wait, this guy needs to finish top 20. Like he's going to be grinding to finish top 20, or this guy is be grinding to make the cut and so on. So I just wanted to kind of, this tournament's a little bit more unique and that's kind of influencing some of my picks for your top 20, 10 and win plays.
All right, so my top 20 pick is a guy from Duke, who is a member at Sedgefield, and I don't have a great reason for picking him other than that. Alex Smalley.
I thought you were going another guy from Duke, old guy, Kevin Strillman. Even though Kevin Strillman's not old,
coming on,
he just feels like he's old. But so Alex Smalley.
Smalley has 2 top 10s in the last 4 starts. Those were both TPC courses. You're like, Joe, what does that have to do with anything? You're gonna love this. PGA Championship this year was played on a Ross course. He was a surprise
up in Rochester.
Yeah. He had a surprise finish up there, which was top 25. But for Alex Smalley, not bad at all. Member here, he's safely in the top 50 right now.
Okay.
But so it's not like he desperately needs it, which I go the other way from you.
Okay.
Because I remember last year, everyone's like, and even you were like, take Ricky Fowler. He needs to have this. Or Justin Thomas last week, which I did. I made the mistake of like, he's got to play really well. And like, I think that gets in their head.
Yeah.
And you start pressing and you're not playing the right way. I think Alex Smalley coming home, playing at his home course in a situation where he has been playing well, even though they're on TPC courses, that's probably the reason why the odds aren't great. You know me, this would not be a reason for me to drive to Virginia and place this bet, but for the purposes of this podcast, plus 230, I'll take Alex Smalley for top 20.
It's not bad. I like that. My can I give you 2 top 20s? Just one?
It's your money, but yes.
No, I like the value. So we had already talked about some guys have to perform this week. And like, to your point,
I think you can go both ways with that.
There is something different about you need to win versus you need to finish top 20 or top 40, right? Yeah. Like if you go on, like Justin Thomas, I looked at it, he needs to finish 18th at a minimum. That doesn't guarantee him in, but if he finishes worse than 18th, he is not going to be in the playoffs. If he finishes third by himself, he's guaranteed. There's a big difference in telling a guy, hey, this week go be third.
Right.
Now,
which a player of that talent,
but you can get yourself into a tournament of being like, hey, go be top 20. That's something I think you can actually like grind for. So I've got 2 real quick. Davis Thompson needs to finish 25th.
Won the 3M like 2 years ago. I think
he needs to finish 25th or better.
Okay.
At a minimum. He is a plus 450,
which is pretty big for top 20. Yeah.
So I'm going to put some on him. And then my other one is Justin Suh. Justin Suh needs to be minimum 19th to have a chance to make the playoffs. His is plus 330 for a top 20.
Still a pretty good number. Again, also remember, just like first round leaders, however many people are a tie, cut into your payoff here. So again, when you're getting into golf gambling, when it gets to North Carolina legally, shop around, because there are sites that offer you straight up, not only numbers,
or like
who will say a top 10 is a top 10 is a top 10, whether there's 10 people in it or whether there's 12 or 15 in it. That's really important, and particularly if you're into golf gambling, to shop around and find that. My top 10, you've already said his name. He's local. He's from Apex. Brendan Todd. I love Brendan Todd. It's plus 400. I don't love top 10 bets in general, but these are the ones I've been hitting lately. Brendan Todd's also a guy who does Brendan Todd safely in the top 40, all of those things. Do you know what Brendan Todd does really, really well?
What's that?
He plays alternate tournaments well. Okay.
Yeah.
And not just the Barracuda and some of those other ones. I'm talking about like a field like this where the big guys aren't there.
Sure.
This is where he shines. He's also a guy he's a good ball striker, but he's not a bomber. And when you look at the par 70 courses, top 20 in Hawaii, AT&T, he finished second this year in that. I think he's a guy who plays well when the field isn't at its strongest. And that might seem like a slight, but it's not. He's also a guy from North Carolina who I think plays well in North Carolina. Wells Fargo earlier this year finished in the top 10. Just finished tied for second at the John Deere as well. He's played well at this course before. This is a horses for courses pick for me. Again, don't love all top 10 picks, but plus 400 for Brendan Todd.
I like
Who's
that.
your top 10?
I'm going to go back to who needs to play well and to get into the FedEx Cup. And I'm going to go to one of the more known golfers that's in the field this week. It's a good field. Let's give the Wyndham
it's
credit.
It's a better field certainly than last week.
And there's been talk about when they redo the schedule and all that, like where you're going to be in the schedule. And like, I think the Wyndham has found a spot. Like, we know we're not going to get Scotty Scheffler or John Rahm, but maybe the year that Justin Thomas just randomly isn't playing well, he's going to show up. Or Tiger. Did Tiger go a couple years ago? And like, that's the same type scenario. Needed to post a result, and it was the last chance to do it. Adam Scott.
That's your guy.
One of my guys. He has to finish a minimum of 9th place to have a chance to make the top 70. Plus 280 for a top 10
pretty good
from Adam Scott.
Yeah.
I look at Adam Scott. He's been around forever and like kept his card. He's played well in some tournaments this year. He was a T19 at the Travelers, played well at Memorial. He had a stretch back in the spring of two top 10s in a row, Wells Fargo and Byron Nelson. I think he's going to get it done. I feel like a guy like Adam Scott, especially, wouldn't show up to Wyndham if he didn't think he had some form too. It's not like I have to go win the tournament. He's like, no, I can probably show up and compete and be a part of it, and maybe I'll win. But I like the plus 280 for a top 10 for Adam Scott.
All right, and let's get your pick to win the Wyndham Championship.
I looked at a couple different guys. When I do the pick to win, I usually don't look at the top of like the top. There's just no. Yeah. It's just hard. It's been in the tournaments like this. It's just hard to find somebody to win. I have a weird feeling. I think Ludwig.
Oh, don't say it. That's who I bet on last week.
I think I like it.
I usually am a week early, so
I like the fact that he didn't play. He was okay last week, but he wasn't in contention. He had been sniffing around a few of the weeks before. I think being that young, it's kind of like getting kicked in the nuts a little bit is probably a good feeling to have. You're not riding high. It's like, oh, this is real golf again. He's 50-1, and he has to win to make the playoffs. I'm going to take Ludwig, 50-1.
All right. It's really going to annoy me since that was my pick last week. I'm going Denny McCarthy.
Okay.
This is a bunter's course.
I
do think he is due for a win. If you look, and obviously he played poorly in the Open Championship.
Yeah, but I don't.
So that has nothing to do with nothing, though. I think he played well at the Wells Fargo. He played well again at that AT&T. I keep looking at those two types of courses and those two types of setups in terms of track record.
Heritage, he played well during the dog. I call this the dog days of summer like stretch.
Yeah,
he played well at John Deere, played well at Travelers.
He's been so close.
Yeah,
he's never won on the PGA Tour before. I really thought John Deere was going to be. He comes out, shoots a 70. Sepp Straka shoots a 62. It's like, well, what are you going to do? I think it's his time.
Yeah,
and the number's not great. It's 25-1, but that's also not terrible.
It's never a good feeling in these tournaments where you look at a guy like Denny McCarthy. It's like I'm taking the second best odds on the board or whatever,
Right.
whatever it is. But 25 to 1, you won't be upset at that if and when it hits.
No, not at all. But it will be Aberg now that you took him this week after I took him last week. So, well, good. I enjoyed this.
Yeah,
we'll have to do it again.
Let's make some money
because I have a feeling you're going to hit one of your first rounds.
Feeling good. I didn't hit anything. I was close. I think
McCarthy was your last one in
yeah. And last week I actually had the guy in second. Lee Hodges kind of went out and won by, I think was leading the first round by 2 or 3 strokes essentially. Yeah. And I think Justin Suh was maybe at second place or something like that. So I was sniffing around last week. I'll put it like that.
We'll watch the golf. We'll do some more homework. Mm-hmm. Be back next week. We'll pick some more golf winners here on Picks and Pizza.
Let's do it.
What's on Giglio's card and parlays.